Fred VanVleet has popped up in another report now from Brian Windhorst indicating that LA Lakers are interested in the Raptors' top guard. So we'll break down that situation as it could get tricky in terms of Fred VanVleet potentially going to LA. Giannis is interested in Toronto Raptors top assistant Adrian Griffin. The Raptors were impressed by Steve Nash during his interview for the head coaching spot. There's top draft picks available for the taking, and Nick Nurse could be going to the Phoenix Suns. So lots of stuff to break down. Without further ado, let's jump to the first topic of discussion. The first thing we're taking a look at is the Lakers potentially interested in Fred VanVleet. Now, this is coming from Brian Windhorst, and we've heard a lot of Fred VanVleet potential takes going around in recent weeks. Could it be the Orlando Magic landing Fred? Could it be going down there in a massive contract? The Rockets, whatever teams, right? Fred VanVleet is the Suns as well, right? Fred has been linked to a lot of teams during this offseason, but now it seems like the LA Lakers could swoop in after D'Angelo Russell's horrific Western Conference Finals. So Brian Windhorst came out and said that Kyrie Irving isn't the only veteran point guard that the LA Lakers are interested in this offseason. Brian Windhorst said Tuesday on Get Up that the Lakers have other options beyond Irving, citing Toronto Raptors guard Fred VanVleet as one such example. He mentioned general uncertainty surrounding the Raptors amid their coaching search, and noted that Fred VanVleet is represented by Rich Paul, who also represents LeBron James and Anthony Davis. So this is something we talked about a while back, when Fred VanVleet signed with Clutch, always going to the Lakers and stuff. It's a big meme. Whenever anyone signs with Clutch Sports, Rich Paul, they're going to LeBron James's team and all that sort of stuff. Well, it seems like it could potentially be the case, as a lot of the rumors and rumblings around the league after D'Angelo Russell's horrific playoff Western Conference Finals, even though he was good otherwise for the LA Lakers, came in and was definitely improvement for that team over Russell Westbrook, even though Russ ended up thriving for the Clippers, right? He just really, I don't even know if he shot over 10%, 20% during that Western Conference Finals against the Nuggets. So they have a very narrow window with LeBron James, who's teased retirement coming back. They want someone who, Fred VanVleet definitely didn't have the greatest of seasons last year, but he's won a championship. He can knock down threes and probably provide more for you than D'Angelo Russell. And, it could get tricky if the LA Lakers do want to acquire him because they don't have a lot of cap space, and they have guys like Austin Reeves, Rui Hachimura, who they want to bring back in free agency this year. So they're going to acquire Fred VanVleet for his potential price point of at least minimum $20 million. I don't think there's any way he's going to get picked up for anything less. They're going to have to make some trades. It's going to be a sign trade, likely with the Raptors, and there's a lot of weird rules regarding sign-in trades, but they have guys like Malik Beasley that could potentially be coming our way, Mo Bamba, and while the Lakers do have a lot of their draft capital tied up, come draft night, they could potentially send away the rights, to a particular player, to the Toronto Raptors. So if they draft 17th, I believe is their pick, right, they could send that to Toronto our way. So if the Raptors could get something for Fred VanVleet if he's going to leave, that could be a positive. Beasley and Mo Bamba are both on expiring contracts, so it wouldn't be like we're bringing in some horrible assets. Beasley can shoot. Mo Bamba has been horrific for LA, so I don't know. It's interesting. It's better than losing Fred VanVleet for nothing, I guess, but we'll see what ends up happening with Fred VanVleet. There's lots of stuff going around. I'm sure come July 1st, there's going to be a lot more chatter regarding Fred. So let me know what you guys think about that whole situation. It seems like the Raptors are kind of all over the place, what might happen regarding their team, but next thing we're taking a look at is something that might happen regarding one of our assistant coaches, as Giannis wants Adrian Griffin to be the team's next head coach. Now, as we broke down in yesterday's video, two Toronto Raptors last seasons made it as the top three candidates for the Milwaukee Bucks coaching position. Nick Nurse, not a Toronto Raptor, and Kenny Atkinson, and Raptors current assistant Adrian Griffin, who has agreed to come back if he doesn't get scooped up by another NBA team as their head coach. But apparently, while Nick Nurse is there, while they've had some playoff battles, that's not the guy Giannis wants coming into the organization. His news basically came out today that I think Adrian Griffin is going to, and this is coming from Gambardoro, I apologize for mispronouncing this, Bucks or Arizona Sports, saying that I think Griffin is going to get the Milwaukee job because Giannis wants him. There's like a butting of heads in Milwaukee from what I'm being told, because you got the owner, you got the GM, and you've got Giannis, and they want to keep Giannis happy, and they want to keep him happy, and Adrian Griffin is his choice. That's who he wants. Basically, there's a lot of stuff going around the Milwaukee Bucks locker room feeling because they lost Darvin Ham, from their assistant coaching staff this most recent season. They thought that was a massive blow to their team. It was a big reason they were knocked out in the first round by the Miami Heat. That's basically what all the reports are saying regarding that Bucks squad, and they want someone that can come in, have a relationship with the players, similar to what Darvin Ham said, and Giannis believes Adrian Griffin could be that guy. So, It would suck for the Toronto Raptors, especially for bringing in a newer head coach. We're not really sure what's going to happen regarding this team. I've heard 1,000 different things, and we'll have more in this video about the Raptors coaching search. Some, Brian Windhorst is saying it's still very uncertain what direction they'll go. I've heard some rumblings that, just from Reddit and all those types of places, that we have our coach selected and all these things. So we don't really know what's going to happen in Toronto, but if we don't hire someone that's super established, right, it'd be nice to have Adrian Griffin on the bench to sort of be that associate head coach to guide things. And if he's the best option, if he's a guy that could really come in and be a good fit for this team, it would suck to see Adrian Griffin gone and taken off the market before we really make our decision. So, we'll see what ends up happening regarding Adrian Griffin. I do suspect that he will be a head coach coming into next season, so don't expect him as an assistant coming on the Toronto Raptors next year, but we'll see what ends up happening. Next thing we're taking a look at is top draft picks being up for grabs, as a new report essentially come out, and we talked about the Portland Trailblazers' potential deal with the Toronto Raptors a couple videos ago. Some people were agreeing with me in the comments, some people were not happy with my suggestion, possibility. Masai was fumbling trade talks by throwing out, anchoring high. People that have read negotiation books and all that, I said he could potentially be fumbling those trade negotiations, because if you say something too outlandish, you're not going to be taken seriously. And this is something that we've heard reports of in the past, right? Regarding maxi offers with Kyle Lowry in years past, OG deals over years. So I don't know. It is what it is. I'm happy Masai Ujiri's not trying to give away our team, but, be reasonable with the offers if they're available, if they're there to be taken. But basically, news has come out that one of the underlying themes of this year's draft combine and hot topics stemming from last Tuesday's result among league personnel is the expectation of Houston, Portland, and Detroit to be aggressively seeking trades centered around their top picks, albeit for different reasons. So, those are all top 3, 4, 5 picks, right, in Houston, Portland, and Detroit. So if the Toronto Raptors do want to move up, we don't have a draft pick for next season. So if we do go the younger route, it is certainly a risk. It is definitely a move that we have to be conscious about, building around that Scotty Barnes timeline. If we're going to be bad, we don't want to be too bad and give up a middle of the pack sort of, if we're really bad, then we'll be a top 5 pick, and then we'll end up keeping our pick as his top 6 protected going to the Spurs next season. But we'll see what ends up going on. Apparently, the San Antonio Spurs are also a team that's now in the mix for trying to trade up for a top 10 pick. So they're among the other teams that the Toronto Raptors are, competing with for potential trades on that front. So we'll see what ends up happening. Hopefully the Toronto Raptors don't give up another first-round pick to the San Antonio Spurs. That's the hope. See memes that we might be memes, not actual reports. We trade our first for Khem Birch back, but we'll see what ends up happening. And next thing we're taking a look at, and these chapters didn't split on my software, so we'll talk about the first one, Steve Nash impressing the Toronto Raptors during his interview. And this one is very interesting, as Steve Nash is not just looking at our comment section, not a guy a lot of Toronto Raptors fans are interested in bringing in, but Michael Grange came out with an interesting quote, essentially saying that the Toronto Raptors were impressed by Steve Nash in a formal interview for the team's open head coaching position. Yes, former Brooklyn Nets head coach and Canadian men's national team star Steve Nash did get a formal interview recently and impressed both with his preparation and apparent determination to get back on an NBA bench after a weird 2+ year stint with the various mixes of Kyrie, Kevin Durant, James Harden, and Ben Simmons to draw up game plans for. A task made more difficult because none of the stars on the super team Nash was hired to coach could stay healthy for a significant length of time. So Grange essentially saying the Toronto Raptors were impressed by Steve Nash getting, that spot. And I did say this in my video, while he's not necessarily my favorite in terms of coaching in, even though he's one of my favorite basketball players of all time. If we do end up selecting him, I'm not going to say the world's on fire. I'm not going to say it's a complete mess, right? I trust, even after the questionable certain moves Masai has made in recent years, I still trust his judgment, especially in bringing in a head coach. And if he thinks Nash is the best fit for it, if he thinks it's just a complete anomaly, what happened down there with the Brooklyn Nets, I'm open to the idea, right? Nash is a legend in basketball. He was a genius out there on the basketball court. Maybe with a less insane roster, he'll be able to do the right things out there for this team. But let me know what you guys think of that. And the final thing, well, you already saw half the chapter for it. Nick Nurse made a finalist for the Phoenix Suns job position. And, for all the people who are hating on Nick Nurse, people are saying, I love Nick Nurse. Apparently got some controversial takes out here recently, right? Nick Nurse, he is coveted across the NBA. As news has come out today, the Phoenix Suns have narrowed down their head coaching search to finalists Nick Nurse, Frank Vogel, Doc Rivers, and Kings assistant Jody Fernandez, and Suns assistant Kevin Young. So, Nurse has now made the finalists, the top positions now for the Bucks coaching position, the Philadelphia 76ers coaching position, and now the Phoenix Suns. So lots of teams across the NBA want Nick Nurse on their bench, and he'll definitely get a job somewhere in my imagination. But I don't know. We'll see what ends up happening. Toronto Raptors got to bring in a good coach if we're getting rid of Nick Nurse. It's the hottest topic of discussion amongst the Raptors. So we'll keep covering it. We'll keep breaking down the latest news regarding that situation and this team. But folks, you guys are the best to make it this far. Subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. Appreciate all you guys as well always. You're the best. I'm signing out. Cheers.